Hello everybody, welcome to Talk About Houses. I'm Todd.
I'm Juana.
So today we're going to talk about foreclosures. This is just for Las Vegas. We don't know about the other markets. We're just dealing with Vegas right now. So this might, and if you're looking at other markets, you can still watch the video because you learn something about how foreclosures work. Okay, so we're going to jump into numbers, but first we're going to go over some general
rules of the game.
Rules of the game. Okay, so you're making a mortgage payment and you skip a payment for whatever reason. So, does the bank immediately go for like the next day they show up and throw you out of the house?
No, they don't. So you miss your mortgage payment, you get a late fee, you get to pay extra interest, and hopefully you get caught up. If you don't get caught up and you miss a second payment, at that point they're going to maybe reach out to you, send you a letter. You miss a third payment, that becomes a little more problematic, and now they're going to get a little more serious.
Okay, so what's the first legal serious thing they have to do?
So the first legal serious thing that they have to do is file what's called a notice of default. That is something that is filed with the governmental entity that's there locally, and that just says, hey, you missed mortgage payments and we are exercising our right to start foreclosure proceedings.
Okay, so with that in mind, we're going to throw up the numbers for Clark County, notice of defaults. Now, the latest month we have is February of this month. We'll probably have the March numbers in a couple weeks, and when we get that, we'll do that. So as you can see here, it goes all the way back to March of last year, February of 2022. And you can see there in February, we had 174 notice of defaults filed. Now, people are going to look at this chart and say, oh, that's rising. It went from the 60s and 70s up to the 100 and somethings, right?
Well, when you consider that we have about 400,000 properties in the Las Vegas area, 174 is not impressive.
No. As a matter of fact, during the last downturn, we were seeing hundreds a day. Like 300 or 400 a day were being filed. So, we're talking 8,000 to 10,000 a month. We have 174 for the whole month.
And we had less houses then than we have now.
A lot less houses. Okay, now, so you're hearing, okay, so we're gonna go through the rest of this and we'll talk at the end about some stuff that you're probably hearing I'm gonna just use the word bullshit. That is not a banned term. I can use the word bullshit. About how the banks have got all these foreclosures that they've got, but they're hanging on to them and they're going to dump them all. There are millions of them, and right? It doesn't exist. This is why you'll see why. Okay. So the bank has to file a notice of default. Now, after 90 days after they filed the notice of default, and remember, this is for Nevada. However, most states follow this, that do non-judicial foreclosure. They just file a legal process. They don't go to a court. It's a very similar process. So what's that thing called after 90 days? What do they do?
Notice of trustee sale.
All right, so if you look at the bottom of this chart here, there's something called notice of trustee sale. Now these are the NODs that made it from previously.
NODs are notice of default.
Yeah, notice of defaults. So if you look at this chart here, you can see how like maybe in November that 190 ended up being 103 in February. You can't really compare February with February because the 103 notice of trustee sales was actually, were notice of defaults in the past. Okay, so 103 filed in February. That's really super low. Like all these numbers are super low. Now, we're gonna go to the next page after that. So after they filed a notice of default and a notice of trustee sale, what's the next thing that happens?
They actually sell the house or the condo, whatever it is, to either it goes back to the bank or it goes to an investor or someone else who purchases the note. Now,
okay, here's the important thing, because I'm putting up the chart so you can see it. Now, ignore the top chart because that's the one you already looked at. That's notice of trustee sale, trustees' deeds. Those are the foreclosures. Meaning the bank can't just take back the house. It has to go through this legal process. If the bank takes it back themselves or they sell it to an investor, they're both the same thing. It's a trustee deed. So this myth that the banks have foreclosed on millions of houses they're holding on to them. These are numbers for last year. If the bank foreclosed and took ownership back, it would have to show up as a trustee deed. Even if that doesn't mean they sold it to an investor, it just means it's a trustee deed. They took it back through a trustee deed. They could sell the trustee deed at the trustee sale, right? So 35, that's like, there's 22 working days in a month. That's about 1.5. Is it more than it was when it was 21? Yeah, but 1 or 2 a day for, like Wanda said, we have almost 500,000 homes in Vegas. There's 1 or 2 foreclosures a day. We already talked about where most of these are coming from.
So a lot of these are a special circumstance. It's not that there isn't equity in them, there's some special circumstance. And I've mentioned this before. One of the circumstances that I've seen is when there's a reverse mortgage and the person passes away and the heirs don't know how to deal with it. So they just kind of throw their hands up and let the bank have it, which is really unfortunate because it doesn't have to be that way. Yep. Another way that it happens is if the heirs don't know how to deal with the property, whether it's in some trust that they can't find the trust paperwork, or there's some LLC or something like that. Sometimes there's some weird other thing going on. I've seen it where the borrower was suing the lender and they were suing the HOA, and so there was a whole bunch of drama going on, and that went to foreclosure. So generally speaking, right now, these are not run-of-the-mill foreclosures. These are special circumstance foreclosures.
And something also to keep in mind, a lot of people, human beings, want to get as much information as they can from as little, without having to do as little work as possible. So people probably saw an article that was probably during the pandemic, 2020, where they saw a Freddie Mac number probably that said there were like 4.6 million houses that were delinquent on their, or in default of their mortgage, right? Those are not foreclosures. That just means they missed a payment or had missed a couple payments. Those have been resolved because they either sold the house or they negotiated a deal with the bank to just extend the mortgage 3 more months into the future, and they would catch up with payments, or they just made up the payments. The number of current defaults on mortgages, and that's not notice of default, because remember, just because you haven't made a payment to the bank doesn't mean you're in default. A notice of default hasn't been filed. It doesn't mean that. What happens was people saw those numbers and they saw it. Oh my God, the banks have foreclosed on all their houses. Where are they? They're going to have to release it. No, it doesn't work that way. They can't just. And if you say, no, that's not true, there's millions. I was told by somebody that there's millions, right? We had a real estate broker in this market tell us, who didn't know who we were, didn't know we knew what we were talking about, out of the blue, just say, oh, there's millions. The banks have millions of properties. And they have tens of thousands in Las Vegas, and they're all going to dump them on the market and crash the market. It's like, so here's my thing. If you think that's true, show me that. We just showed you the data. Show us the data. We want to see what market specifically, and the actual. We want to see notice of defaults, notice of trustee sale, and actual trustee deeds. And then the other question is, why would the bank hold on to a property and then hold on to millions when they could just put the house on the market with an agent, sell it, take the cash back, and go loan it out to somebody else? Why would they hold? It doesn't make any sense. Like, Wanda, does it make any sense?
It doesn't make any sense, but if you believe that that's what's going on, we respect your beliefs, and we respectfully ask you to list your house with us, and we will get it sold for you, and you will avoid all of that market crash that you feel is impending upon us.
Shameless self-promotion notwithstanding. Okay? We will sell your house. We will literally do it. If you say, hey, I've had it, I buy into the market crash stuff. We got a whole nother video we're doing that. It's kind of fun, actually. So these are the numbers. This is the trustee sales. Nothing in here. This is noise. There's no signal. When we see 1,000 a month, maybe we'll get worried. That's 30 a day, okay? That's still nothing compared to what it was. It's a tenth of what it was a decade ago when the market crashed. And it's at 100, 103, or 170.
Right, and keep in mind that these are properties that are getting sold at the trustee sale because there was nothing else that could be done for them. Because if you live in Las Vegas and you own a home, I guarantee you that you probably get at least one postcard a week or letter a week or some kind of a contact from a real estate agent begging you to list your home with them, or from an investor saying they will buy your house cash, sight unseen, sign here on the dotted line. So that gives you an idea that these homes that are getting foreclosed on, these 35 a month, there was something going on with that title. There was something going on with that borrower that prevented them from finding a different avenue to move that property forward rather than foreclosure. Look, there are lots of investors out there and they are beating down everybody's door. We get text messages all the time, and we're not getting text messages because we're practitioners in real estate. We're getting text messages because we own property. So I get text messages all the time saying, hey, you own this property, how about selling it to us? We get letters all the time. We get postcards. Like I said, this is not unusual. And these people who are getting foreclosed on, they are getting those too. So there must be something going on with those properties that is preventing those sellers from selling them and keeping the property from going to foreclosure.
If you are many months behind on your mortgage, many months, you can give us a call. We can arrange to have somebody come over there, take a look at the house, potentially pay off, write a check to the bank, and make your mortgage current. Make your ongoing mortgage payments, give you 5 to 10 grand to leave, and they will happily take over your house. They'll sell it. Your note will be paid off, whatever your mortgage balance is, and they'll put some money in their pocket.
Right.
It's a shame because people that are that far behind could just do that themselves. They could just sell the house and put the money in their pocket. But some people, I don't know, maybe they're just in denial. That's another.
I think it's a stressful situation that got them there, and I think that's why a lot of people do these subject to sales. That's what they're called, where they'll just take some money from the buyer and they'll move on. The buyer will bring the loan current. They'll go ahead and sell the property to an end user, and they'll get to keep the difference between the sale price, the purchase, and the loan payoff. And that's how they make money. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's actually a good situation for everybody. The initial borrower gets to be relieved of the stress. The investor who helps them out gets to put some money in their pocket. The end buyer who gets the property gets a house. Everybody's good. Everybody's happy, and that's totally fine. This is not uncommon. This is something that happens quite frequently. It used to happen a lot more frequently when people had a lot more distress and poor circumstances in their lives and needed to get out faster. That's not happening as much, which is good, and I'm glad for that's no longer the case for most people. But it is still happening, and if it's happening to you, please reach out to us, and we'll be happy to make it good and help you out.
The two things we're looking at, the biggest indicators: pre-foreclosures, notice of default, that kind of activity, which this is nothing. Inventory, climbing. It's going down. It's actually getting, the opposite's happening, what everybody's saying. So, the market being poised to crash could mean by 2030. I guarantee you in 2025, if prices fell 2%, the people who for 5 years have been saying the market will crash would beat their chest and go, look, we predicted the market crash 5 years ago. We said it would crash. We said in 21 it would crash. We said in 22 it would crash. We said in 23 it would crash. Then we went to 24 and 25 and it declined 2%, it crashed. And we were right, we said it. And Miller, he was wrong. Those talk about houses, people don't know what they're talking about. We're not saying prices will go down, we're just saying, show us evidence that there's a crash coming.
Well, while we don't think there's a crash coming, real estate does go up and down. Right now it's been going up for some time, and we don't foresee it going down substantially anytime in the near future.
Right. Anyway, like I said, if you want to learn about what's actually going on in the real estate market, at least here in Las Vegas, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share the video with your friends, call a long lost relative and share the video with them. And what else?
So, we want to know what you think. You got to hear what we think. You got to see our data. What do you think? We want to know, because we do learn from you guys. We do respond to most of the comments. And we love engaging with you. So please leave us comments, hit the notification bell, subscribe, like the video, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.
Bye.